Fable. 93 languages. Anthropomorphic cat. Guarding geese, Egypt. c. 1120 BCE. For other uses, see Fable, disambiguation. Fable is a literary genre defined as a succinct fictional story, in prose or verse, that features animals, legendary creatures, plants, inanimate objects, or forces of nature that are anthropomorphized, and that illustrates or leads to a particular moral lesson, a moral, which may at the end be added explicitly as a concise maxim or saying. A fable differs from a parable in that the latter excludes animals, plants, inanimate objects, and forces of nature as actors that assume speech or other powers of humankind. Conversely, an animal tale specifically includes talking animals as characters. Usage has not always been so clearly distinguished. In the King James Version of the New Testament, mythos, was rendered by the translators as Fable. 1. In the first epistle to Timothy, the second epistle to Timothy, the epistle to Titus and the first epistle of Peter. 2. A person who writes fables is referred to as a fabulist. History, edit. The fable is one of the most enduring forms of folk literature, spread abroad. Modern researchers agree. 3. Less by literary anthologies than by oral transmission. Fables can be found in the literature of almost every country. Aesopic or Aesop's fable, edit. The varying corpus denoted Aesopica or Aesop's fables includes most of the best-known Western fables, which are attributed to the legendary Aesop, supposed to have been a slave in ancient Greece around 550 BCE. When Babrius set down fables from the Aesopica in verse for a Hellenistic prince Alexander, he expressly stated at the head of Book 2 that this type of myth that Aesop had introduced to the sons of the Hellenes had been an invention of Syrians from the time of Ninos, personifying Nineveh to Greeks, and Balus, ruler. 4. Epicharmus of Kos and Phmis are reported as having been among the first to invent comic fables. 5. Many familiar fables of Aesop include the crow and the pitcher, the tortoise and the hare and the lion and the mouse. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. In the 1st century AD, Phaedrus, died 50 AD, produced Latin translations in iambic verse of fables, then circulating under the name of Aesop, while Phaedrus's Latinizations became classic. Transmitted through the Middle Ages, though attributed to a certain Romulus, now considered legendary, the writing of fables in Greek did not stop. In the 2nd century AD, Babrius wrote Beast fables in Greek in the manner of Aesop, which would also become influential in the Middle Ages, and sometimes transmitted as Aesop's work. Citation needed. In ancient Greek and Roman education, the fable was the first of the progymnasmata, training exercises in prose composition and public speaking, wherein students would be asked to learn fables, expand upon them, invent their own, and finally use them as persuasive examples in longer forensic or deliberative speeches. The need of instructors to teach, and students to learn, a wide range of fables as material for their declamations resulted in their being gathered together in collections, like those of Aesop. Citation needed. Africa, edit. African oral culture, 6, has a rich storytelling tradition. As they have for thousands of years, people of all ages in Africa continue to interact with nature, including plants, animals and earthly structures, such as rivers, plains, and mountains. Children and, to some extent, adults are mesmerized by good storytellers when they become animated in their quest to tell a good fable. The Anansi oral story originates from the tribes of Ghana. All Stories Are Anansis was translated by Harold Corlander and Albert Kofi Premper and tells the story of a godlike creature Anansi who wishes to own all stories in the world. 7. The character Anansi is often depicted as a spider and is known for its cunning nature to obtain what it wants, typically seen outwitting other animal characters. 7. Joel Chandler Harris wrote African American fables in the Southern context of slavery under the name of Uncle Remus. His stories of the animal characters Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear are modern examples of African American storytelling. This though should not transcend critiques and controversies as to whether or not Uncle Remus was a racist or apologist for slavery. The Disney movie Song of the South introduced many of the stories to the public and others not familiar with the role that storytelling played in the life of cultures and groups without training in speaking, reading, writing, or the cultures to which they had been relocated to from world practices of capturing Africans and other indigenous populations to provide slave labor to colonized countries. Citation needed. India, edit. India has a rich tradition of fables, many derived from traditional stories and related to local natural elements. Indian fables often teach a particular moral. 8. In some stories the gods have animal. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Printed image of the fable of the blacksmith and the dog from the 16th century. 10. Aspects. While in others the characters are archetypal talking animals similar to those found in other cultures. Hundreds of fables were composed in ancient India during the first millennium BCE, often as stories within frame stories. Indian fables have a mixed cast of humans and animals. The dialogues are often longer than in fables of Aesop and often comical as the animals try to outwit one another by trickery and deceit. In Indian fables, humanity is not presented as superior to the animals. Prime examples of the fable in India are the Panchatantra and the Jataka tales. These included Vishnu Soma's Panchatantra, the Hitopadesha, Vikram and the Vampire, and Syntippus. 7 Wise Masters, which were collections of fables that were later influential throughout the Old World. Benny Perry, compiler of the Perry Index of Aesop's Fables, has argued controversially that some of the Buddhist Jataka tales and some of the fables in the Panchatantra may have been influenced by similar Greek and Near Eastern ones. 9. Earlier Indian epics such as Vyasa's Mahabharata and Valmiki's Ramayana also contained fables within the main story, often as side stories or backstory. The most famous folk stories from the Near East were the 1001 Nights, also known as the Arabian Nights. The Panchatantra is an ancient Indian assortment of fables. The earliest recorded work, ascribed to Vishnu Soma, dates to around 300 BCE. The tales are likely much older than the compilation, having been passed down orally prior to the book's compilation. The word Panchatantra is a blend of the words Pancha, which means 5 in Sanskrit, and Tantra, which means weave. It implies weaving together multiple threads of narrative and moral lessons together to form a book. Europe, edit. Fables had a further long tradition through the Middle Ages and became part of European high literature. Fables had a further long tradition through the Middle Ages and became part of European high literature. The Roman writer Avianus, active around 400 AD, wrote Latin fables mostly based on Babrius, using very little material from Aesop. Fables attributed to Aesop circulated widely in collections bearing the title of Romulus, as though an author named Romulus had translated and rewritten them, though today most scholars regard this Romulus to be a legendary figure. Many of these Latin versions were in fact Phaedrus's 1st century versified Latinizations. Collections titled Romulus inspired a flurry of medieval authors to newly translate, sometimes into local vernaculars, versify and rewrite fables. Among them, Ademar de Chabans, 11th century, Alexander Neckham, 12th century, Novus Aesopus and shorter Novus Avianus. Gualterus Anglicus, 12th century, and Marie de France, 12th to 13th century, wrote fables adapted from models generally understood to be Aesop, Avianus or the so-called Romulus. Citation needed. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. In the later Middle Ages, Aesop's fables were newly gathered and edited with a prefatory biography of Aesop. This biography, usually simply titled Life of Aesop, Vita Aesopi, is more invented than factual, and itself a sort of moralistic fable, known in several versions. This Aesop romance, as scholars term it today, enjoyed nearly as much fame as the fables themselves by the end of the 15th century. The most common version of this tale-like biography is attributed to the Byzantine scholar Maximus Planudes, 1260–1310, who also gathered and edited fables for posterity. In the Renaissance, Aesopic fables were hugely popular. They were published in luxurious illuminated manuscripts, such as the so-called Medsi Aesop made around 1480 in Florence based on the corpus established by Planudes, probably for the son of Lorenzo de' Medici, now kept in the New York Public Library. Early on, Aesopic fables were also disseminated in print, usually with Planudes' Life of Aesop as a preface. The German humanist Heinrich Steinhauer published a bilingual, Latin and German, edition of the fables in Ulm in 1476. This publication gave rise to many re-editions of the sole German prose translation, known as the Aesopus or Aesopus Teuch. It became one of the great bestsellers of the last decades of the 15th century. Several authors adapted or versified fables from this corpus, such as the German poet and playwright Burkhard Waldis, whose versified Aesopus of 1548 was influential. Even the artist and polymath Leonardo da Vinci, 1452–1519, composed some fables in his native Florentine dialect. Citation needed. During the 17th century, the French fabulist Jean de La Fontaine, 1621–1695, saw the soul of the fable in the moral, a rule of behavior. Starting with the Aesopian pattern, La Fontaine set out to satirize the court, the church, the rising bourgeoisie, indeed the entire human scene of his time. 11. La Fontaine's model was subsequently emulated by England's John Gay, 1685 1732, 12, Poland's Ignacy Krasicki, 1735 1801, 13, Italy's Lorenzo Pignotti, 1739 1812, 14, verification needed, and Giovanni Gerardo de Rossi, 1754 1827, 15, verification needed, Serbius Dosite Jabradovic, 1745. 1801, 16, Spain's Thomas de Iriart y Oropesa, 1750 1791, 17, verification needed, France's Jean Pierre Clarisse de Florian, 1755 1794, 18, and Russia's Ivan Krylov, 1769 1844. 19. Modern era, edit. In modern times, while the fable has been trivialized in children's books, it has also been fully adapted to modern adult literature. Felix Salten's Bambi, 1923, is a Bildungsroman, a story of a protagonist's coming of age, cast in the form of a fable. James Thurber used the ancient fable style in his books Fables for Our Time, 1940, and Further Fables for Our Time, 1956, and in his stories The Princess and the Tin Box in The Beast in Me and Other Animals, 1948, and The Last Clock, a fable for the time, such as it is, of Man in Lanterns and Lances, 1961. Ladislaw Raymond's The Revolt, 1922, a metaphor for the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, described a revolt by animals that take over their farm in order to introduce equality. George Orwell's Animal Farm, 1945, similarly satirized Stalinist communism in particular, and totalitarianism in general, in the guise of animal fable. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. In the 21st century, the Neapolitan writer Sabatino Sia is the author of more than 200 fables that he describes as Western protest fables. The characters are not only animals, but also things, beings, and elements from nature. Sia's aim is the same as in the traditional fable, playing the role of revealer of human society. In Latin America, the brothers Juan and Victor Atoquiori Garcia have contributed to the resurgence of the fable. But they do so with a novel idea, use the fable as a means of dissemination of traditional literature of that place. In the book Fabulas Peruanas, archived the 23rd of September, 2015 at the Wayback Machine, published in 2003, they have collected myths, legends, and beliefs of Andean and Amazonian Peru, to write as fables. The result has been an extraordinary work rich in regional nuances. Here we discover the relationship between man and his origin, with nature, with its history, its customs and beliefs then become norms and values. Clarification needed, 20. Fabulists, edit. Aesop, by Velázquez Valmiki Jean de la Fontaine. Sulcan Saba Orbeliani John Gay Christian Fertigat. Gelat. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Gotthold Ephraim Lessing Ignacy Krasicki Felix Maria de Samanigo. Thomas de Iriart y Oropesa. Jean-Pierre Clarisse de Florian. Ivan Krylov. Dosite Jabradovic Hans Christian Andersen Ambrose Bierce. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Joel Chandler Harris Ladislaw Raymond Felix Salton Don Marquis James Thurber George Orwell Classic, edit. Aesop, mid-6th century BCE, author /s of Aesop's Fables. Vishnu Sommer, c. 200 BCE, author of the anthropomorphic political treatise and fable collection. The Panchatantra. Bidpai, c. 200 BCE, author of Sanskrit, Hindu, and Pali, Buddhist, animal fables in verse and prose, sometimes derived from Jataka tales. Syntippus, c. 100 BCE, Indian philosopher, reputed author of a collection of tales known in Europe as the Story of the Seven Wise Masters. Gaius Julius Hyginus, Latin author, native of Spain or Alexandria, c. 64 BCE 17 CE. Author of the Fabulae. Phaedrus, 15 BCE 50 CE, Roman fabulist, by birth a Macedonian. Nizami Ganjavi, Persian, 1141–1209. Walter of England, 12th century, Anglo-Norman poet, published Aesop's Fables in distichs. c. 1175. Marie de France, 12th century. Jawal ad-Din Muhammad Bork, Persian, 1207–1273. Vardan c. died 1250, Armenian priest and fabulist. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Birikia Harnak Dan, Birikia the punctuator, or grammarian, 13th century, author of Jewish fables adapted from Aesop's Fables. Robert Henryson, Scottish, 15th century, author of the moral fabulas of Aesop the Phrygian. Leonardo da Vinci, Italian, 1452–1519. Bernat of Lublin, Polish, 1465. After 1529. Jean de La Fontaine, French, 1621–1695. Sultan Saba or Beliani, Georgian, 1658–1725, author of the Book of Wisdom and Lies. Bernard de Mandeville, English, 1670–1733, author of the Fable of the Bees. John Gay, English, 1685–1732. Christian Fertigat Gellert, German, 1715–1769. Gotthold Ephraim Lessing, German, 1729–1781. Ignacy Krasicki, Polish, 1735–1801, author of Fables and Parables, 1779, and New Fables. Published 1802. Dosite Jabridovic, Serbian, 1739–1811. Felix Maria de Samanigo, Spanish, 1745–1801, best known for The Ant and the Cicade. Thomas de Iriart, Spanish, 1750–91. Jean-Pierre Clarisse de Florian, French, 1755–94. Author of Fables, published 1802. Ivan Dmitriev, Russia, 1760–1837. Ivan Krylov, Russian, 1769–1844. Hans Christian Andersen, Danish, 1805–1875. Modern, edit. Leo Tolstoy, 1828–1910. Raphael Pombo, 1833–1912, Colombian fabulist, poet, writer. Ambrose Bierce, 1842–1914. Joel Chandler Harris, 1848–1908. Sholem Eliakim, 1859–1916. George Ade, 1866–1944, Fables in Slang, etc. Ladislaw Raymont, 1868–1925. Felix Salten, 1869–1945. Don Marquis, 1878–1937, author of the Fables of Archie and Mehetabel. Franz Kafka, 1883–1924. Damon Runyon, 1884–1946. James Thurber, 1894–1961, Fables for Our Time and Further Fables for Our Time. George Orwell, 1903–1950. Dr. Seuss, 1904–1991. Isaac Bashevis Singer, 1904–1991. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Nankichi Niimi, 1913–1943, Japanese author and poet. Sergei Mikhalkov, 1913–2009, Soviet author of children's books. Pierre Gaimara, 1919–2009. Richard Adams, 1920–2016, author of Watership Down. José Saramago, 1922–2010, Portuguese writer, author of Ensaio sobre Cegueira. Italo Calvino, 1923–1985, Cosmocomics etc. Arnold Lebel, 1933–87, author of Fables, winner 1981 Caldecott Medal. Ramsay Wood, born 1943, author of Kalila and Dimna, Fables of Friendship and Betrayal. Bill Willingham, born 1956, author of Fables graphic novels. David Sedaris, born 1956, author of Squirrel Seeks Chipmunk. Hayao Miyazaki, born 1941, Japanese filmmaker, director of Spirited Away. Guillermo del Toro, 21, born 1964, Mexican filmmaker, director of Pan's Labyrinth. Pendleton Ward, born 1982, American animator, creator of Adventure Time. Notable Fable collections, edit. Aesop's Fables by Aesop. Jaitakar Tales. Pangshatantra by Vishnu Soma. Baitul Pashizai, also known as Vikram and the Vampire. Hitopadisha. Kalawadimna. A Book of Wisdom and Lies by Sulkhan Saba or Balayani. 7 Wise Masters by Syntippus. 1001 Nights, also known as Arabian Nights, c. 800–900. Fables, 1668–1694, by Jean de La Fontaine. Fables and Parables, 1779, by Ignacy Krasicki. Fairy Tales, 1837, by Hans Christian Andersen. Uncle Remus, His Songs and His Sayings, 1881, by Joel Chandler Harris. Fantastic Fables, 1899, by Ambrose Bierce. Fables for Our Time, 1940, by James Thurber. 99 Fables, 1960, by William March. Collected Fables, 2000, by Ambrose Bierce, edited by S. T. Joshi. See also, edit. See also, category Fabulists. Allegory. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. Animal tale. Anthropomorphism. Apologia. Apologue. Fable. Fables. Fairy tale. Fantastic. Ghost story. Parable. Proverb. Wisdom. Notes, edit. 1. For example, in 1 Timothy, neither give heed to fables, and refuse profane and old wives. Fables. 1 Tim 1:4 and 4:4, respectively. 2. Strong's 3454. Muthos muthos, perhaps from the same as 3453, through the idea of tuition. A tale, i.e. fiction, myth, fable. For we have not followed cunningly devised fables, when we made known unto you the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but were eyewitnesses of his majesty. 2 Peter 1:16. 3. Encyclopédie des Marchands, 1977, see Fable, Asopica etc. 4. Burkert 1992:121. 5. P. W. Buckham, p. 245. 6. T. Moten, the 25th of October 2011. Reaching African Children Through Fables and Animation. HuffingtonPost.com. Retrieved 8 May 2012. 7. A.B. The Norton Anthology World Literature, 4th ed. 500 Fifth Avenue, New York, NY, WW. Norton and Company. 2018 pp. 902905. ISBN 978-0-393-60285-2. 8. O'Hale, Nagnath, the 25th of May 2020. Indian Fables. Stories in Indian Culture. Indian Fables with Morals in Indian Culture. Archived from the original on 31 July 2020. Retrieved 16 July 2020. 9. Ben E. Perry, Introduction, p. 19, in Babrius and Phaedrus, 1965. 10. Fable van der Smiddy en de Hond. lib.ugent.b. Retrieved 28 September 2020. 11. Translations of his 12 books of fables are available online at oaks.nvg.org. 12. His 2 collections of 1727 and 1738 are available in one volume on Google Books at books.google.co.uk. 13. His Bajki Ipatai Pawi Fables and Parables, 1779, are available online at ug.edu.pl. 14. His Fable e Novel, 1785, is available on the torch.dir.di Napoli. 1830. Retrieved 8 May 2012. Via Internet Archive. Pignotti Favola. 15. Rossi, Giovanni Garuddo de, 1790. His Fable, 1788, is available on Google Books. Retrieved 8 May 2012. 16. 9 books of fables are available online in Spanish at amedivas.com. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF. 17. His Fabulas Literarias are available on 1816. Retrieved 8 May 2012 via Internet Archive. Thomas. De Iriart y Oropus of Fabulas. 18 His 5 books of fables are available online in French at chenoureb.net, archived 12 June 2010 at The Wayback Machine. 19 5 books of fables are available online in English at friendspartners.org, archived 21 February 2011 at The Wayback Machine. 20 1 Why Victor Otokyori Garcia, Fabulas Peruanas, Gaviota Ajal Editors, Lima, 2003, ISBN 9972. 2561-0-3. 21 Kermode, Mark, 30 July 2013. The Devil's Backbone, The Past is Never Dead. The Criterion Collection. Retrieved 25 June 2016. For those with a weakness for the beautiful monsters of modern cinema, Del Toro has earned himself a reputation as the finest living exponent of fabulist film. References, edit. Buckham, Philip Wentworth, 1827. Theatre of the Greeks. J. Smith. The Theatre of the Greeks. King James Bible, New Testament, Authorized. D.L.R., David Lee Rubin. Fable in Verse, The New Princeton Encyclopedia of Poetry and Poetics. Read Fables by Aesop and La Fontaine. Further reading, edit. Jishgen, 3 January 2011. 3 Modern Fables to Capture Your Imagination, audio with transcript. NPR, All Things Considered. Tobias Carroll, 29 September 2017. The Challenge of Modern Fables, Ben Lower is Erudite. Surrealism. Tor.com. Robert Spencer Knotts. Modern Fables. The Humanity Project. Categories: Allegory, Fables, Folklore, Narrative Techniques, Persuasion Techniques. Short Story Types, Traditional Stories. Explore our developer-friendly HTML to PDF API printed using PDF Crowd HTML to PDF.